How's it going, fellow Detroit Red Wings fans? The first round of the NHL draft is coming up tomorrow, and the Red Wings currently have the 6th and the 22nd pick in the draft. So we are going to go over some options at each spot that the Red Wings could pick, and different ways the Red Wings could play out their first round draft day, and possibly even some trades. So, at 6, there will likely be a lot of talent available, and no one's entirely sure who will still be there. Thanks to COVID, assessment and scouting on these players was difficult at best. So who could the Red Wings select? Well, if you're looking for defense, there is a number of prospects. You got Brandon Clark, a right-handed defenseman, Simon Evanson, who played for Frölunda this season, who is left-handed, not to mention Owen Power of the University of Michigan. Now, of those, Owen Power and Luke Hughes are most likely not going to be there. Brandon Clark or Simon Evanson could go before the 6th overall slot, but it's likely one of those two will be available, if not both. Now, if you're the Red Wings, who do you draft? Well, obviously you want to go with left-handed defensemen. 3 of those 4 I just named are left-handed defensemen, only Brandon Clark being right-handed. For most NHL scouts and analysts, they have Owen Power obviously being the 1st overall pick. Now that could change because the Buffalo Sabres do have Rasmus Dahlin as their number 1 defenseman, and the Buffalo Sabres most likely will be losing their first-line center, Jack Eichel, this offseason. So they likely will be looking for a top-notch forward. So it's a possibility he does fall down the draft rankings, not to mention he has talked about going back to the University of Michigan wherever he ends up being drafted. So Owen Power could potentially fall down the list. A lot of fan-made mock drafts have him falling down the list really far. One, I've seen him at 14th overall, which I doubt he will get that far. It'll be lucky if we ever do see him fall out of the top 5. But if Owen Power is somehow able to fall out of the top 5, I don't see why not the Red Wings don't take him. Owen Power has a really good offensive upside, like putting up forward numbers as a defenseman upside. His only spot that he needs to work on is his defensive zone, which that will come with age. Not to mention he's going to go back to the University of Michigan most likely next season, and the Red Wings are in no rush to develop him. Not to mention his huge frame and body paired up with Seider on the top line would be a dominant defensive line for years to come in Detroit, and trust me when I say there will be a lot of NHL forwards hurting that try to make plays in the Red Wing zone. Also, there's Luke Hughes, who we said most likely won't be available, just due to the fact that the New Jersey Devils will be picking at 4, and that he is actually a really good defenseman. Like I said, the NHL has teased the New Jersey Devils selecting Luke Hughes if he's available at 4th overall. I honestly think they will. Even if they don't, there is a chance that the Columbus Blue Jackets will pick him up. But if he also does fall out, I can't see why not. Same thing with Owen Power. Luke Hughes is a really gifted offensive defenseman that can put up some insane numbers. He had 15 points in 18 games played last season in the USNTDP. He plays like a forward, and some of that has to do with the fact that he was a forward and moved back to defense a couple years back. So you get pretty much a two-way defenseman now, but really Seider was known for being a defensive defenseman, and you can tell he's really, really good in his defensive zone. And then you give him Luke Hughes, who is shifty, small, and can make some plays and shoot that puck pretty well. You have a recipe for a very productive defensive line. You also have Simon Evanson, who, while I would say he is a good defenseman, maybe not good enough at 6th overall. Of course, no one thought Seider would be picked at 6. He was supposed to be around the mid-teens in the first round, and, well, that pick has paid off pretty well for the Red Wings, I would say. He is a left-handed defenseman, and he is pretty big well, so he could line up with Seider as well, or even Hronek on that second line. The only other defenseman, and I'm not going to say I'm totally for, a lot of people have said, well, if he's going to be an elite player, why not pick him? Take the best player available, and that's going to be Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark is an offensive defenseman, little bit more two-way, but he still needs some work in his defensive zone. But he is right-handed. Now, I will say, for a Stanley Cup contending team, you're going to need a Seider, Clark, Hronek, all of those players in your defensive lineup. You need really good players. I would say, though, that we don't really have any left-handed defensemen outside of maybe Chalowski. So taking a right-handed defenseman on an already stacked and log-jam position may not be the best idea for the Detroit Red Wings. So the Red Wings could also go for maybe a forward, and that's going to be William Upland. Upland had 23 points in his SHL season last season. To make this clear, Lucas Raymond, who went 4th overall to the Detroit Red Wings in the 2020 draft, and Alexander Holtz, who went 7th overall in the 2020 draft to the New Jersey Devils, put up less points than the 17-year-old William Auckland in around the same amount of games. So to say he has good offensive instincts and skill, yeah, he definitely does. In terms of forwards, he arguably has the highest ceiling in this draft. And I would say the Red Wings taking Upland would be beautiful. He likely would make the Euro Twins 2.0 with Lucas Raymond in the Detroit Red Wings roster. They both are able to make insane plays. They're shifty, they're small, but they definitely don't shy away from throwing their body around and getting into those puck battles. They both can make some insane passes and have a high hockey IQ, not to mention rip up bullets whenever they need to take a shot. The only thing is with taking a winger, and I'm definitely not discounting Upland, and I still think the Red Wings should take him if he's there at 6th overall. Maybe a position that the Red Wings need some help on at center would be better. Now, I wouldn't say that there is a center prospect in this 2021 NHL draft that would be better to take at 6th overall over the winger Auckland. Matthew Beniers is absolutely insane, and he would probably be the only exception to that list because he is probably the only center in this draft that is for sure going to be a center in the NHL. Not to mention, he has the do-it-all style of play. He went point per game in the NCAA as a freshman for the University of Michigan, playing on a line with Kent Johnson. There's just nothing to say about him. He's a perfect two-way center, plays just like Jonathan Toews, and put up similar points to Jonathan Toews in the season leading up to his draft. He's feisty, he can put the puck in the back of the net, he can make plays, he can hit opponents, he can back check, he can forecheck. There's just nothing wrong with Beniers' game. And some might even say he might go 1st overall. Now, likely he won't be there either. Most people have him being taken 2nd by the Seattle Kraken, if not, then by the Buffalo Sabres. There's 2 other center prospects that the Red Wings could possibly aim to take, and that would be University of Michigan, Kent Johnson, and Mason McTavish, who ended up playing in the Swedish League due to the OHL being canceled because of COVID-19. Both players are very different, but they have a lot of offensive upside. If the Red Wings do really want a center, though, I would say McTavish is the better way to go. Johnson can make some insane plays, has some slick hands and offensive instincts. But the Detroit Red Wings are trying to adopt a more defensive style of game. At least that's what it appears so. If the Red Wings do want to take Johnson, they are likely going to have him play on the wing. Probably with a center like Michael Rasmussen, who is more sturdy and distributes the puck, not super flashy. Personally, I like McTavish. One of the bigger concerns for the Red Wings, at least in the last couple seasons, has been scoring goals. They're usually either at the bottom of the league or right around the bottom of the league in terms of goals scored. Well, McTavish is probably the best goal scorer outside of maybe Dylan Guenther. McTavish had 9 goals, 2 assists for 11 points and 13 games played in the Swedish League, not to mention adding in 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in 7 World Junior Championship games played, and was the captain of Team Canada, leading the way to a World Junior Championship gold medal. So he has the leadership, he has the goal scoring ability, he has the body, 6'2", pretty sturdy, and can hit pretty hard. Not to mention that high motor, high competitive edge that the Red Wings really come to love. If I was going to be picking and Beniers is not there, the Red Wings want to take a center, I think they should take McTavish. The last prospect I want to go over is one that has a lot of discussion going around the Red Wing community, and that is Jesper Walstead. Love him, hate him, he is the best goalie in this draft. Some say the best since Carey Price, who was taken in the top 10 when he was drafted. Jesper Walstead played most of his season in the SHL, where he earned the starting job and put up some pretty good numbers, especially for a 17-year-old. You don't even usually see 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds in the SHL. Jesper Walstead was one of them, not to mention he played for the U20 World Junior Championships for Team Sweden, albeit not for a lot of games, and put up some solid numbers, and the Red Wings really do need an elite goaltender prospect. We don't really have much in the system. We have lots of prospects. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of goaltending prospects in the Red Wing system, but none of them have shown that they could possibly be the goaltender of the future, and none of them are even close to making the Red Wings roster. The closest one this last season was Keith Patruzzelli, who played for the University of Quinnipiac, and he did put up some pretty great numbers. The only problem is that he's not going to sign with the team. At least that's what it looks like. So, with him scheduled to hit free agency in August, Why don't you use the 6th pick to pick the best goalie prospect, at least heading into the draft, since Carey Price? Yes, Yaroslav Askarov went last season, and he put up some insane numbers in the KHL, and will likely be heading over to America pretty soon. Then you have Spencer Knight taken the season before, and he made his NHL debut and put up some insane numbers in the playoffs against Tampa Bay. Whether you agree or not, that is your choice. Personally, I think the Red Wings need to address their goaltending depth. They could also do that with the 22nd pick as well. Some people want Sebastian Cossa. A lot of other teams also want Sebastian Cossa and likely might go before the 22nd pick, which would be kind of crazy to see 2 goaltender prospects go in the top 20. Regardless, the Red Wings could use that 22nd overall draft pick to select Sebastian Cossa, who would be a great pickup. It definitely addresses the need, gets us a really good goaltender prospect. Maybe not as good as Jesper Walstead, but that remains to be seen. And who knows, you really don't know how any of these draft prospects or players are going to pan out, especially due to COVID. It delayed a lot of seasons, got minimal play, and made it difficult for scouts to see any of the players. The other player that I could see the Red Wings selecting if he's available at the 22nd overall pick would be Fidor Savetchkoff. He is a Russian player, put up some pretty good numbers, I would say. He has pretty much the complete package. The only problem is nothing in his package screams elite. So he most likely will make the NHL and may be one of the quickest to reach the NHL in this draft. The only thing is he most likely won't end up on a 1st or 2nd line, maybe 2nd or 3rd at best. However, if the Red Wings are trying to take a risky pick at 6th overall, which Yzerman does like to do, I mean, look at Moritz Seider. Lucas Raymond wasn't really supposed to go 4th overall, but that was more of a safer pick than Seider. He could use this as a pretty safe pick because no matter what, you're going to get an NHL player out of Savetchkoff. It's just how good he is. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't other draft prospects that possibly might be even better, especially the 22nd overall pick. Due to this draft, I think there likely will be a prospect falling down the rankings for the Red Wings to select at the 22nd pick. Similar to Joe Veleno in the 2018 NHL draft, not to mention Jonathan Berggren taking just a couple spots after him. There also are some ideas. Well, there are going to be a lot of really good prospects available, especially in the top 10. Maybe the Red Wings could use some of their draft capital and salary cap to take a pick from that top 10. Maybe the Red Wings could make a trade with the Vancouver Canucks, sending the 22nd overall pick to Vancouver in exchange for Louis Eriksson's contract to take that on and pay the cap hit for it, and get the 9th overall pick in the draft. Then, even if you are worried about Jesper Walstead, you could take him at 9th overall and get a solid prospect at 6th. Mason McTavish, Simon Evanson, Brandon Clark, Luke Hughes, Owen Power, William Upland, Fabian Lysol if you really want to. And then take Jesper Walstead at 9. Not to mention you got all the Tyler Bertuzzi trade rumors. It's likely that the Red Wings could squeeze one of the top 10 picks or maybe even a top 20 pick out of one of those teams for Tyler Bertuzzi and maybe some prospects and other round draft picks. Let us know what you think. Who do you think the Red Wings should take at 6th and 22nd overall? What trades do you think will happen on draft day? Even if it's not regarding the Red Wings, we want to hear all your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Red Wing Nation was created to be a community of Red Wings fans that could come together and talk about all things Red Wings. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button so we make more content that you like. And lastly, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified when we upload a video. And until next time, lights out in the red light district.